The Southwest Division has a whole lot of drama, mainly just because of Houston. But I have the division going Dallas in first, Memphis in second, the Pelicans in third, the Rockets in fourth, and the Spurs in fifth. It kind of hurts my soul to say the Spurs are going to finish last in their division because of how good the Spurs have been over all the years. But I just can't help but think that the Spurs really aren't getting much better next year. I know Popovich is still there. I know how much of a basketball genius and savant Popovich is. I think that, I feel as though DeRozan I just feel like, at some point the Spurs are going to realize, okay, it's time to really pack it in and reload and rebuild and everything. So let's let DeRozan, take his talent somewhere where they can be utilized more. So I just think that that's a guy that you try to trade away at the trade deadline and give it to a team who could maybe make a late push for playoffs, or might need someone if someone goes down with an injury, whatever it may be. Then I have the Rockets in fourth. Now this is contingent on the fact that they trade James Harden. This whole thing with James Harden is crazy in the first place. He first says, I want to be traded to the Nets. Then I want to be traded to the Sixers. Okay, now we'll open it up to the Bucks and the Heat. Are you, obviously, you're only picking Eastern Conference teams. Obviously, you're only picking Eastern Conference playoff teams. Why? First off, I guess you're saying, yo, I'm tired of the West. Maybe I'll do something in the East. That's what that comes off as to me. It's like, oh, I can't be successful in the West. I don't want to be here in Houston. So let's go to an Eastern playoff team. Because, the East is always notoriously easier to get through than the West. But the thing is, I feel like a lot of these teams are like, sure, we take James Harden, but we're not trading the whole farm for him. If you're Miami, you got a lot of good young talent. They were talking about Miami having to trade Tyler Hero for James Harden. If I'm Miami, I'm not trading Hero for Harden. Yes, Harden is one of the best offensive players we've seen in the league's history. I get it. I understand his talent. I understand all of it. I am not trading Hero for Harden because Hero, first off, he has not reached his potential. I don't think he's even close to reaching his potential yet. A hell of a lot younger. Has already grown into a Miami hometown, not really hometown, obviously, but hometown hero. No pun intended. I wouldn't trade him. If that's what it takes, I would not trade Hero for him. I probably wouldn't trade Bam for him either. You're obviously not going to trade Butler because that just doesn't really make sense, especially when Butler came down there and kind of really brought together a lot of the team chemistry and really, embraced the team as a whole. I could see the Houston wanting Duncan Robinson too, but that's your main shooter right there. If you have to trade all that stuff for James Harden, who, what is he, 30, 31? I wouldn't do it, especially because, to me, James Harden and Jimmy Butler does not beat the Lakers for you. We watched what it was like, the Lakers facing the Heat in the finals. You're telling me just adding James Harden and trading away someone like Hero or Robinson or Bam or them is going to win the Heat the finals? I don't think it is. Especially when we have seen how notoriously unreliable Harden can be in the playoffs. Then you look at a team like the Sixers. I probably would stop being a Sixers fan if they traded for Harden, especially if they traded someone like Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. Especially obviously they're going to want either younger players, star players, or good draft picks. But what I just don't see Harden. The only team I see Harden making a serious championship contender if they don't trade one of their two stars is Brooklyn. And it's been said, it's been reported that Brooklyn is only going to trade for Harden. Well, it said that Houston will only trade Harden to Brooklyn if Kyrie is in the deal. Now, that brings up something interesting because me personally, I probably would do that deal. I probably would trade Kyrie for Harden because Kyrie has been getting hurt, especially a lot lately. Boston, he was hurt a lot. He missed most of this whole first season with Brooklyn. Yes, he has a championship, so I understand he has championship experience, but KD, I would say, has more. And second off, KD is an MVP, a finals MVP. One of the best players, probably going down as one of the best players of all time. So, I mean, and has already played with Harden. So if you ask me, I probably would do the deal Kyrie for Harden. Does that make the team that much better? I think it does make them a little bit better just because you don't know how available Kyrie's going to be. Harden, I mean, you can say what you want about his type of offense, his defense, whatever, but he's notoriously healthy. He plays. He's on the court. You can't really say the same about Kyrie. I would do it. Harden with the Bucks, I think, is interesting. Him with Giannis, especially if you keep Drew Holiday, I feel like you probably would have to trade Middleton. But at that point, I might do that. Harden with Giannis and Drew Holiday, I think, would be very, very interesting, especially because, you know, you wouldn't be able to clog the lane as much because you'll have Harden and Drew out on the perimeter. And, you know, Harden might drag some defenders his way, opening the lane up for Giannis and things like that. I think that's a very interesting team. And their defense was one of the better defenses in the league last year as well, in terms, like, speaking of Milwaukee, but it just, I don't know, it wouldn't, I just still don't know if that team beats the Lakers. It could, just because you have Giannis to cover someone like Anthony Davis, but then who guards LeBron? I guess you might put Brook Lopez on Anthony Davis and then have Giannis guard LeBron. But if you're asking me, for Anthony Davis, that's barbecue chicken every single time. So, yeah, there's still some questions. But anyway, so that's why I have them at fourth. If they trade him, they're definitely going to be down at fourth. Especially because we don't know what John Wall's like. We don't know what kind of production Cousins is going to give you. The signing of Christian Wood was good to get a younger big man in there as well. Yeah, so they're kind of a question mark and a wait-and-see kind of team. 3, I have the Pelicans. I like the moves that the Pelicans made. Yes, they got rid of Drew Holiday. They do bring in Steven Adams. They bring in some more draft picks. They bring in, like another year of Zion and Lonzo, and they re-sign Brandon Ingram. I think that the team is going to be better. You know, new coach, everything. I think that the Pelicans finally do make the playoffs, and I think they'll gel pretty well, to be honest with you. Then we have the Grizzlies in second. I feel like most people don't have the Grizzlies that high. But I like Ja Morant. I like Jaren Jackson. I like Brandon Clark. I like a lot of the young pieces to this team, and I think that building off of the momentum from last season, I think they'll do pretty well. I'm probably one of the only people that really think this way, that have them this high, but I just have a gut feeling about the Grizzlies for some reason. Like, it's not one of those things that I can really break down into science or analytics or anything. It's just a gut feeling that I think Memphis will do pretty well. And then, of course, Dallas in first. I think a big thing with Dallas is Porzingis' health, but you still got Luka. We saw what Luka did last season. I think he should be the favorite for MVP this season. So it's going to be a very solid year for Dallas. They did bring in Josh Richardson, who I think will fit very nicely alongside Luka Doncic. And yeah, as long as Kristaps can stay healthy, I think that this team will definitely be a force in the West. So overall, Western playoffs. I have the Lakers with the first seed. I have the Nuggets with the second seed. Dallas with the third. Warriors with the fourth. Clippers with the fifth. Then I have the Blazers with the sixth. Jazz with the seventh. And then I think the eighth seed comes down to... I did say the Pelicans were going to make the playoffs, but now that I break down the seeds like this, I'm not exactly sure. So I think that the eighth seed is going to come down... eighth seed is going to come down to the Suns, the Grizzlies, and the Pelicans. And I think ultimately the Suns will probably take that. I see the 4 teams in the Pacific making the playoffs. So, yeah. That's what I have for the West. So, that's it for me, guys. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Atlantic Files, the #1 podcast on the #1 division in the NBA. Make sure you check out BasketballSocietyOnline.com and the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.